Gwyneth Paltrow has been in the news recently. Apparently, she's being sued from an alleged ski accident that happened back in 2016 in Park City, Utah. And she took the stand recently. So I was curious to see what the astrology has to say about what could possibly happen in this case, and also what's going to happen in the near future for Gwyneth Paltrow. For those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get all of my updates and videos. I do like to make videos on celebrities, royal family, monthly predictions. So make sure you check all those out. So let's go ahead and take a look at Gwyneth Paltrow's chart. Here's the chart. And quick disclaimer, this reading is for entertainment purposes only. We are only speculating as to the astrological energies, and this is my opinion of the energies in the chart. So let's take a look at what's going on. One of the things I notice about Gwyneth Paltrow is that she's in a Mercury Bhukti at the moment. Mercury Bhukti. And this Mercury Bhukti is actually just about to end on May 18th, 2023. So in less than 2 months, Gwyneth Paltrow is going to be entering K2 Bhukti. Okay, so she's already in the transition zone from Mercury Bhukti to K2 Bhukti. And then K2 Bhukti is going to last May 18th to June 25th, 2024. So a lot of what we can focus on is probably what the outcome of this case is going to involve is mostly this K2 Bhukti, which is going to be in May, or at least the aftermath of what's happening with the decision in this case. So let me clean up the chart really quickly here. So Mercury, if we just look at the period that she's in right now, Mercury's in the eighth house. And this is somewhat, this is an evil house. It's known for traumatic events. So, this might be a little bit traumatizing, actually having to appear in court and defend yourself because you're getting sued. And then we also have to look that, Mercury is being influenced by the sun, which is the seventh lord. The seventh house has to do with law courts. It's traditionally known as the house of marriage, and that's what mostly people think of the seventh house, but it also represents lawsuits, courts, things like that. And then Mars is also being activated here, and that's the 10th house, public visibility, third house, self-earned wealth. But I do feel like mostly it's this eighth house effect and seventh house effect that's really influencing the situation right now. And this case is in the media, and that's what Mercury tends to do. Remember, Mercury is the planet that likes to announce things. It likes to make announcements. It likes to advertise. It likes to produce media publications. So whenever anyone's running a Mercury period, it's heavily mentalized and there's a lot of media coverage or media publications. Now, one of the issues I have is Mercury itself, because it rules the sign of Gemini, it's activating K2. So K2 is usually involved with losses of some sort. So most often when I see anyone going through a K2 period, there's usually a divorce, a job loss, a loss of financial wealth. There's some sort of loss because K2's job is basically to separate you from whatever obstacles are preventing you from heading towards enlightenment. So K2 does have a purpose in the grand scheme of things. But as humans, we do not like K2's purposes because K2 is more concerned about growth of consciousness. So it will remove things from our life. So K2 is usually associated with losses. And Mercury's already, activating that. Eighth house is also associated with losses as well. So she's in a period of losses, of upset. Eighth house could be called the house of upset as well. Now let's talk about the upcoming K2 Bhukti. So that starts May 18th, right? Sorry, May 18th is when the K2 Bhukti starts. So there's going to be a considerable shift of energy around this time. And this is what's so cool about Vedic astrology is the Vimshatari Dasha system. It really helps so much. If you know your own astrological chart, you literally can write it out on a calendar and know, okay, this is the day I'm going to change bhuktis, and this is when energy is going to shift, and there's a whole different karma that's ripening in my life. Okay, so the K2 bhukti, even though Mercury, the preceding bhukti, was already activating K2, now K2 is being like even really emphasized right now. It's really being highlighted. It's associated with losses. I mean, you can't get along. So it does suggest to me losses. And one of the things I do see in the moon chart, especially since Gwyneth Paltrow is 50 years old now, because remember, 50 and up, your moon chart starts to become a lot more powerful. And here's the moon chart here. Basically, in the moon chart, you just make this the first house. It her lagna is Aquarius, but the moon sign is Taurus here. Okay, so if we made Taurus the first house in the moon chart over here, you'll notice that K2 is second from moon. Okay, so when we're interpreting it, we got to look at, okay, K2 is in the fifth house, and K2 is also second from moon when we're looking at these charts. Well, fifth house has to do with luck. It has to do with fortune. So when we see K2 in the fifth house, this could be bad luck. This could be not good luck with specifically this case. We're speculating, allegedly. Um, but also K2 in the second house could be a loss of financial wealth. This also could be detrimental, by the way, with K2 in the fifth house, detrimental to the acting career at the moment, because fifth house is really, when we think about celebrity, fifth house is really the house we like to talk about. So there could be some diminishing of wealth here. There could be a decision that's not very positive for Gwyneth Paltrow. I do see issues in the chart. Now, in the grand scheme of things, these lessons that we have in our lives, they're all meant to grow our consciousness. So there is no judgment about this, but it doesn't look good right now. When I'm looking at the astrological energies, I'm like, okay, this doesn't really look good if you're in a legal battle. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out, which I forgot to bring up in the beginning, is Gwyneth Paltrow. The larger period she's in is Saturn Mahadasha, which is the longer period. And that started for her in 2017. So whenever you're in a Saturn period, so the Saturn period is quite long. The Mahadasha is like 18 years long. So it's a really long Mahadasha. But then the bhuktis are the sub periods. Okay. So the bhukti is Mercury, and then she's going to be in K2 in May. But Saturn is still having its influence. Whenever you're running a Saturn Mahadasha, Saturn is just a planet of difficulty. It's always going to bring up karmic issues or karmic debt that we owe. So if allegedly she hit this skier on the ski slope, there's definitely a karmic connection there, because it's a Saturn Mahadasha. The chart seems to indicate that there's probably some sort of karmic debt that's owed from past lives, whether she remembers it in this current life, or, you know, or not. But what I want you to know is, when anyone ever comes against us in our lives, whether there's a lawsuit, whether they, metaphorically throw us under the bus, whether they come up against us, compete with us, those are people usually that we've harmed in some way in past lives, especially if you're in a Saturn or a K2 period. It's usually some sort of past life situation, and there's some sort of balancing of the karmic scales that happened. Even the most like beautiful and good people in this current life, they've had lifetimes where they've done things that are not that great. So we all occasionally reap negative karma. So I want you all to think about that. Let me know what you think about Gwyneth Paltrow and maybe her case. Comment down below, and also give me more ideas on whose chart you would like to see read. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.